on this rap-ish. I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list. Hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu. And I'm that spitter, baby. They don't want you to see, but everybody's south of Capitol Hill's rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and ponder getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. Me? I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
That Dre season is here, a real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass, I'm level-headed. So yo, my dudes love when I spaz, and I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it
I hate
for
these
us.
average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game, I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers, I'm knocking my own flame, I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your panty line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on. To the hearse, party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete. I'm a verbal athlete, deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Yeah. I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping. But I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building. My whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool-ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
Grand Rising and good morning to all you beautiful folks out there today. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I am your co-host, Trey Holiday. Happy Thursday or Friday Eve for you naughty ones out there. I got to bring in my guy, Big O. What up, Big O?
Hey, Bay Holiday.
Hey, happy Thursday, my friend.
Happy Thursday to you. Want to give a big shout out to Gloria, to Irene, to Dora, to Emily. What's up? We see you. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. Jana.
Yeah,
man, coming in over here. Thank you, Director Oya, sending us all these vibes on screen. Nathaniel. Want to welcome everybody to the Morning Update Show. And as usual, you already know, this is a perfect opportunity for you to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and tag and share the stream with people that you feel could appreciate culturally relevant news and information emanating from right here in the Emerald City. Man, we got a pretty good show here today with some breaking news this morning. So we're back in the breaking news department. Yeah. The Supreme Court of the state of Washington made a ruling on the recall of council member Shama Sawant, represents the Central District D3. Yeah. That's the Central District in Capitol Hill and other places too. But Central District near and dear. The Supreme Court ruled that the recall can proceed. So we're going to be joined by Kevin Schofield here in a little bit. And we're also joined by, we used to say D9. Yeah. We got corrected P9. Sara Nielsen is running for position number 9. That's citywide seat for city council. That is Council President Gonzalez's current seat, but of course the council president is running for mayor, so that seat is going to be vacated. And Sara Nielsen is here to talk about that. We've talked to some of the other candidates in that race, and so it'll be good to be able to hear what Sara Nielsen's talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I think we pointed out early on was we knew that seat was going to have a lot of folks coming for it. It's going to be a highly competitive race, so I'm excited to hear what Sara's going to bring to the table.
Right on. So, and before we get going too, because we got a tendency to go long when we have the candidates here, and this is important information I want to make sure and get out to everybody. Hello, everybody over there is MochaCulture, and so it's what I want to talk about is MochaCulture. It's this Friday at 7:00. And it was a production here between Converge Media and the South Seattle Emerald. And it's starring Shayna Shepherd, Maya Marie, Chris King, and the Gutterballs. And they're paying homage to Ray Charles. We're going to play that clip here real quick.
Tune in this Friday at 7 p.m. for MochaCulture, a docuseries meets concert experience that knits the stories of our local arts community and the legendary voices of color that inspire them. This Friday is episode 1, Ray Charles, with performances by Eva Walker, Maya Marie, Chris King, and Jimmy James. Hosted by Shayna Shepherd and presented by Converge Media and the South Seattle Emerald. Tune in wherever you're watching The Morning Update.
All right, so this Friday at 7 p.m., episode 1, MochaCulture. Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Me too. That every time they have that music playing in the back, I'm like, ooh, because live bands are like the best. So I just love that there's going to be a production for that.
Yeah, you get Eva Walker and Shayna Shepherd together. I mean, something powerful is going to come out. Actually, Shayna is joining us tomorrow. Shayna and also producer Nikki Barron, who's been on vacation, but she's going to join us tomorrow. All right. So, man, we got some, that was the good news. We wanted to get that out first, but man, here's the other news. Here's today's update from the George Floyd trial, or the Derrick Chauvin trial, excuse me. Of course, it's this George Floyd case, because they definitely be trying to put George Floyd on trial. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And he's not on trial here. This is from CBS this morning.
In Minneapolis, Derrick Chauvin's murder trial resumes this morning after a day of dramatic and sometimes traumatic eyewitness testimony. Yesterday, prosecutors played police body camera footage for the jury, more than 1 hour of video in all. Witnesses testified that they felt guilty about George Floyd's death and wish they could have helped him. Jamie Yukas is outside the courthouse in Minneapolis. Jamie, how are the jurors reacting to this testimony?
Well, Adriana, one juror had to take a break as nearly every witness burst into tears on the stand. She told the judge she had a stress-related reaction, felt shaky, and has had trouble sleeping. Prosecutors also introduced new, never-before-seen videos as evidence. Again, we want to warn you, this video is disturbing. 61-year-old Charles McMillan was one of the first people on the scene May 25th. He said he was trying to make the situation easier for George Floyd.
I have had interaction with officers myself, and I understand once you get in the cup, you can't win.
When Derrick Chauvin arrived on the scene, McMillan, who often walks the neighborhood, said he recognized him from a few days earlier.
I seen Mr. Chauvin, and I told him, like I tell our officer, at the end of the day, you go home to your family safe, and let the next person go home to their family safe.
McMillan broke down when prosecutors showed body camera footage of Floyd being pinned to the ground.
Stop moving. Mama. Mama. Oh, my God.
After the ambulance left the scene that day, McMillan confronted Chauvin, and for the first time, we can clearly hear Chauvin.
Got to control this guy because he's a sizable guy.
Yeah, and I thought he didn't get in the car.
Looks like he's probably on something.
The jury also saw new security video of Floyd in the Cup food store, where he allegedly used what appeared to be a counterfeit $20 bill. Christopher Martin is the cashier who interacted with Floyd.
He seemed to just be having average Memorial Day, just living his life, but he did seem high.
Later, you can see Martin outside the store with his hands on his head.
What was going through your mind during that time period?
Disbelief and guilt.
Why guilt?
If I would have just not taken the bill, this could have been avoided.
The neighborhood where the Cup Foods is located is still healing in the months since Floyd's death.
What's this space been like since the trial started?
We've gone through a myriad of emotion.
Marsha Howard is a veteran and one of the Minneapolis residents who's a caretaker of 38th and Chicago, a barricaded protest zone.
George Perry Floyd Jr. was a real person, not simply a symbol. We all know that that trial somehow seems to be a trial of the value of a black life. These streets are to remain closed until the conviction of all 4 officers who killed George Floyd will be on barricades. No justice, no street.
The Cup Foods cashier you saw testify was not the one to call the police, but he did tell his manager he thought the bill was fake. Witness after witness has mentioned the guilt they feel for not doing more to save George Floyd. Gail.
Everybody who witnessed it that day feels guilty. I can't imagine what the jury is thinking watching this. It's very tough. Thank you, Jamie, very much.
All right, so, yesterday, as it summarized there, real emotional day. And the gentleman who was on the stand crying there, he was like, man, he said when George Floyd was calling for his mama, he was like, man, I understand. I just lost my mama too. But, something that was interesting here today, and we talk about this double standard here in America, is, they talked about George Floyd's, he was basically, they talk about an addiction to painkillers. He had chronic back pain and everything else. They talk about use of Oxycontins and things like that. And his girlfriend testified as well. And it'll be interesting to see here. Well, let's see how America takes this, because white people right now get a lot of grace when they're addicted to opioids and everything else. It's a public health emergency. It's a lot of grace when white people have an addiction. You know what I'm saying? Like we saw black people was addicted to crack. It was, there was no grace given. But here is something right here where they've made public health emergencies. We used to get mandatory minimums and everything else. And I'm glad that it's a public health emergency, by the way. And I'm glad that there's a different approach. But let's see if that grace extends over here to George Floyd, or if they try to say, oh, he was a drug addict.
Omari, as we cover this Chauvin trial, every time something new comes out, it is another indicator for so many that said, this is why I utilize my body, I utilize my voice, my energy to get out in the streets during the summer, literally protesting against this kind of behavior, this kind of police abuse of authority, that ultimately every one of us that said we are going to get out there and we're going to make our voices heard, we are slowly, every time evidence is coming out, we're seeing why. And for that man to be on the stand crying like that and understanding as he was calling for his mother, George Floyd was calling for his mother, that there was already clearly bias about George Floyd's size, about, hey, he looks like he's on something. I mean, yeah,
came to the car with the gun.
Yeah.
Like, what, you know what I'm saying? What if there was a misfire?
That's what I'm saying.
Approached him with the gun out. This was apparently a forgery call or whatever. He said, the officer said forgery on the tape yesterday. So he approached him with the gun already out when they came to the car.
And my thing is this, for a $20 bill, that is what we're really here about. We're here, and I understand that cashier saying, maybe if I just didn't take the bill, maybe if he just didn't say anything about it, and it was something that was more so reconciled at the end of the night. But we're talking about a $20 bill that appeared to be a fake $20 bill. The ways that they have utilized and abused their power and their authority in this case, and the ways that they approach George Floyd, that in and of itself should be a crime. When we're talking about all of these different measures, the fact that everything that people do is criminalized in this regard. You have somebody who needed to get the items he was getting that day. And unfortunately, it was not met with the same amount of compassion. We talk about the humanistic approach all the time. For him to be just talked to, hey man, it looks like that was a fake $20 bill. That is a very minor charge here. It's not something that's major. He didn't have that cashier at gunpoint. He didn't go in there to rob the store. It wasn't as if he came with this level of aggression that they approached him with, Omari. That's what I'm saying here. It's quite ridiculous. And for anybody who does not identify that this is, again, about racist practices, you are actually living in a fairy tale land. This is really about race. Had that been a white man, the fact that they could have came to him, sir, it appears that the cashier thought maybe, this bill was fake or illegitimate. That is a whole different approach we would have seen play out. But because he was a Black man of the stature that he was, that is literally why we are here today talking about this case.
Yeah, I mean, and the defense is going to continue with. I mean, they've made very clear that this is their approach on this is to build doubt, because I mean, if as long as there's reasonable doubt, then there's space for either a mistrial or a not guilty verdict. So I mean, there's an expectation around this, but I mean, it's something different, and we got to move on. We got Kevin back there in the green room, but even here in our own city, it's interesting how we deal with the same problems and view the same problems when it's white people and Black people. And that was one of the things that we really came out when we did our Vanish in Seattle episodes, right? And that's why it was so powerful, because you hear Black people for decades being like, hey, we just want to be able to shop with Black stores, and we just love our culture in the Central District, and we just want to support Black businesses, and we want to support Black art. And it's looked at like, but you see, when we played the tapes from Ballard and we played all the footage from Ballard, and it's like, man, we support Scandinavian businesses. We want to promote Scandinavian culture. We want to be all about Scandinavian this and Norwegian that. The city looks at it differently. Hey, man, that's great. Let the Black people in the CD be like, hey, man, we just want to preserve Blackness. We just want to preserve this and that. And it's always looked at different. So whether it's Seattle, it's Minneapolis or whatever, the double standard is there. And the best thing is, though, because I'm always looking for the best. The best thing is this presents an opportunity for America to rise to the occasion, for us to actually, be better as a country and a society. This presents an amazing opportunity for us. And don't just look to Minneapolis, look right here in Seattle.
Right here.
How does this present an opportunity here for us? How do we approach this? And like I said, the way that addiction has been treated here in Seattle, where Black people are still behind bars. But now that it's a crisis for white people, there's beds available. It's a public health emergency. It's this and that. So
it's a change on kinship care. We keep talking about it. I just want to say quickly, because I know we got Kevin back there, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. As we talk about a Sankofa model in Black community in particular, that is looking back to know how to move forward. And we have to build on these examples. We do not need to continue to replicate them. We actually need to learn from them. And I agree with you 100%, Omari.
All right. So we've nixed the break. We got to make some space for Kevin Schofield. So we threw the breaks out. Then we went to the short break. We ain't got no break. But I do have my handcrafted motion graphic because I worked hard on this. Kevin Schofield, SCC Insight. Oh, yeah, D'Alessandro. Please bring in Kevin. And Kevin, hey. I know I told you 10 minutes, man, but, as you can imagine, talking about this George Floyd case, it's always emotional and impactful for us. And so it's eating up some of your time.
And, boy, that's a hard thing to follow. And I can't listen to all that and not say something about it. And Trey and Omari, I completely agree with everything you said. And for me and my family watching this and listening to this and watching it play out, it's infuriating sometimes. Well, it's infuriating all the time that, that it's really in a lot of ways George Floyd on trial here. And he's not. What needs to, it should be the double standard is for, the Black people are held to, it should be on trial. The biased policing should be on trial. And Derrick Chauvin is on trial, right? And that's what we need to stay focused on. And we need to have the discipline to not let people distract us from that. At the end of the day, that's what this has to be. But that's not why you brought me on today.
Well, real quick, let me tell you this. Amen, brother, and thank you. What we did bring you on here for, though, Kevin, this morning is the state Supreme Court, and you talk about taking their own sweet time. I think it's just the Supreme Court fooled people earlier, because when they went behind doors and everything with COVID, they were coming out with these fast food decisions relatively quick. And the Sawant decision, man, they took months.
3.5 months. The
ruling came out today. So first of all, tell us what the ruling said, and then second of all, you can tell us what the next steps are.
Yeah, so state Supreme Court was handed down a ruling this morning on the recall petition against Councilmember Chauvin Sawant, and they said that the petition can go forward. So now at this point, the petitioners will have 180 days to collect together about 10,000 signatures from within voters in the District 3. And if they get 10,000 signatures, then it can go on the ballot as a recall. The recalls are different from a lot of other ballot propositions, even though they kind of follow a little bit of the same process. You can't recall an elected official just because you don't like them. You actually can only recall them for cause, and it has to be malfeasance, which is commission of an unlawful act, misfeasance, which is performance of the official's duty in an improper manner, or violating their oath of office. And so the courts for these things don't go in and sort of try the facts and figure out what's true or not, and then decide sort of what the law says about that. What the courts do in these is they say at the end of the day, it's up to the voters, if this ends up on the ballot, to decide, what the truth is about this and whether they want this elected official removed. But their job is to say, number one, does the evidence that's presented here actually support, if it's all true, support the charges that are being made? And if that's true, then are those charges legally sufficient to meet that requirement of malfeasance, misfeasance, or violation of oath of office? Legally, is it something that you could actually recall an elected official for? So that's their job. They took 3.5 months to decide this. There were 4 charges that were in this petition, and they walked through all 3 of them because Councilmember Sawant actually challenged all 4 of them. One of them, they said, yeah, it's factually sufficient, but it's not legally sufficient. We can come back to that if we have time. There were 3 they said are factually and legally sufficient. The first one was that last year with the Tax Amazon ballot initiative, that she used city funds and resources to support that, which is illegal under the law, and that in doing so, she used city funds and resources for a non-city purpose, right? Also something that she can't do. So that was one, and they said that's factually legally sufficient, assuming voters decide that's all true. Second is that she led this protest to the Mayor Durkin's house last June, and was it last June? Last summer, and there were 2 charges under that. Number one, that was criminal harassment because they defaced her house and wrote threatening things on the sidewalk, on her driveway, on her house. And then the second charge under that was that she disclosed confidential information because Mayor Durkin, because she used to be a U.S. attorney and prosecuted, federal criminal cases, her home address is protected under a state protection law, and that Councilmember Sawant allegedly disclosed that confidential location and leading the protests there. And they found that it was factually sufficient for that. They found it wasn't legally sufficient for the criminal harassment because there was no evidence that Sawant actually really enticed anybody or participated directly in any harassment of that. But they did say, that legally sufficient disclosing the confidential information, that was legally sufficient. So that part of it can go forward. And then the last one is that last June she opened up City Hall to allow hundreds of protesters in at a time when City Hall was closed under the governor's stay home directive, and that was both factually and legally sufficient. So those 3 things are going forward on the petition. Again, if the petitioners over the next 180 days, 6 months, get 10,000 signatures together, it can go on the ballot. They have an interesting decision to make there because they get to sort of decide which ballot they're going to aim for. If they get 10,000 signatures by mid-May, they could go on the August ballot, where we're also going to have the primaries for the elections this year. If they go a little later than that, then they could get on the November ballot, which is going to be the general election, which usually is going to be, that's the one that a lot of people really turn out for. And then, if they wait like 5-6 months, the deadline for getting something on the November ballot is August. If they wait a little past August to submit their 10,000 signatures, they could go on a February ballot, which has a lot lower turnout, and that might, so they have to decide which of those is really going to be their advantage. And there's one other last twist to this, which is both on one of the three charges, the one about supporting the Tax Amazon initiative, both the Seattle Ethics and Election Commission and the State Public Disclosure Commission both have pending charges against Councilmember Sawant over what she did with that. And they have been waiting, they've both been on hold waiting for this ruling from the Supreme Court today, because their sort of legal holding was going to influence how those turn out. And so now with that ruling in place, it's almost inevitable that Sawant is going to lose both of those, right? She's going to lose her appeal of the charges in front of the Seattle Ethics Commission and in front of the Public Disclosure Commission because of the way the state Supreme Court ruled on that. So she has to face both of those as well.
Wow.
All right, Kevin. Well, the Supreme Court has kept us waiting. This is interesting because, we're so much into policies and stuff now. There's like tomorrow, 9 a.m. State Supreme Court. You know what I'm saying? It's like must-see TV and some of everything else. I see that the council member has a rally organized this Saturday over at Cal Anderson Park. Of course, Council Member Sawant has a stronghold there in the district. A lot of support. It was really a divided district. The last election came down to about 1,500 votes. But the council member was victorious, and man, it looks like they're ready. I got an email like 2 minutes after the decision from the council members' staff, saying that they're ready to fight this. Kevin, we got to run, but we appreciate the update, and we're gonna check back in with you. I think we'll catch up over the weekend because there's been a lot of stuff going on.
Yep.
So we can talk over the weekend and catch up. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, folks. Have a great day.
All right. We're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, we've got Sara Nilsson in the building. Sara is right. There's some handcrafted graphics. Yay. Sara Nilsson is running for city council, position 9. P9?
Yeah, P9, not D9. You got it.
P9. Citywide. Citywide position. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury, and I'm looking directly in the camera because the director told me I've been all over the place today. There's a lot going on over here. All right. So we're fortunate enough here at Converge to have a lot of candidates come through, and it's important for us, for our community. We want to be able to tell people what's going on, who the candidates are, what their options are, what platforms are out there, and everything else. And so today we are joined by Sara Nelson, who is a candidate for P9, position 9, and P9 is too hot, man. I'm taking direction well today, Madam Director. P9 is a citywide seat, so that means that everybody in the city can vote for this position. Sara Nelson, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, welcome to the Morning Update Show.
Congratulations on your 1-year anniversary.
Well, appreciate it. Yeah. Appreciate it. You see, we have a lot of fun here behind the scenes, right?
Oh, yeah. I've seen behind the scenes. Yeah. Congratulations.
Good stuff. All right. So we kind of start these out all the same way. And we asked the candidates to tell a little bit about themselves and why. You can tell the good citizens here of the Emerald City why you're running for Seattle City Council position 9.
All right, thanks. I am a progressive small business owner, and I'm running for city council because I believe that Seattle's going in the wrong direction, and I will bring practical and experienced leadership that's badly needed right now. A little bit about myself. I worked for city council as a legislative aide for about 10 years for Councilmember Richard Conlon. And I learned how policy is made and how important it is to get into the minutia and really talk to a wide swath of people before you actually put something forward, because that's how you avoid unintended consequences. And I just basically learned how local government should work. So I've got that experience, and my husband and I also own Fremont Brewing. About 10 years ago, we founded it. And when I say I'm a progressive small business owner, I mean that we do right by our employees. We didn't lay anybody off during COVID. We kept everybody on and increased their hourly wage because, to make up for lost tips. We lead in sustainability. We give back to our community. And I'm worried about the thousands of small businesses that have gone under or have left town, and tens of thousands of people have lost their jobs, and people are really hurting in Seattle. So I believe that the voice of a small business owner, someone who leads with the values that most Seattleites share, and gets things done, it's time for that voice on city council.
Okay, and you said that Seattle, you feel, is headed in the wrong direction, maybe making a wrong decision. What is the city doing wrong?
Well, we've got a problem with homelessness that we declared an emergency in 2015, and we spend millions and millions more dollars on this problem, and it keeps getting worse. That's one example of repeated wrong decisions. I am concerned about downtown being boarded up, and just people feeling as though they don't really have a voice in city government anymore.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this on the flip side. What is the Emerald City doing right?
What the Emerald City is doing right is, you mentioned it earlier in the show, we're cutting regulatory barriers. I mean, we responded to the COVID crisis really quickly. The Liquor Control Board and the City of Seattle just turned on a dime and allowed restaurants to serve outside, and that permit's going to go, it's going to expire in October. I think it should be extended, but it's that kind of creativity that is an example of what we can do when we just really take what's a crisis and turn it into an opportunity. That's something that I want to see more of.
Right. And looking at the city council, and it's kind of hard. I don't want Dana from down there from council communications saying I got it wrong, but there is a lack of entrepreneurs and business owners that are representative even throughout city government here. I mean, as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, as someone who stays up late here every other Friday looking at our payroll, and so thankful to our $5 family, by the way, for keeping us on air. There is a different kind of experience when you're especially a small business owner and you have to make these kind of decisions. Is that something that you're hoping to bring that insight to the council? All the council members have their own unique lived experiences, and I'm not being judgmental of those, but I don't think that there is people who've really had a career in business on the city council right now.
That is the case. It hasn't been since 2009 with Jan Drago, since we've had a small business owner on city council. And that's important because I got to tell you the truth. I came to Washington in 1990 to get a PhD in anthropology. Did that. Decided to bail on academia and went into public service. And it wasn't until my husband and I started a small business that I really changed my perspective. I realized that well-intentioned policy can have negative impacts if you're not really being careful. And so I kind of, getting out of public service and into the private sector, I realized, you know what? Those business owners that I used to think were just kind of whiners, they, lower my taxes and cut regulation. I recognize that sometimes they have a point. You got to see how it plays out in real life. And that's a perspective that is needed. But more importantly than that, I mean, like going back to what I was saying about businesses closing, we're in an emergency. In small businesses are job creators, and we spur innovation, and we're the fabric of our neighborhoods. And, we're struggling. And I don't see council acting with any urgency whatsoever to really help us. We need, a determined, focused plan to help. And so I feel that urgency, and I know what some small businesses need. And I'm talking to businesses in different sectors to really formulate a set of policy proposals that I'm happy to go into in excruciating detail. We don't have time. Your audience should be grateful. But in any case, I have ideas, and we need to get focused on that. So.
Right. And when we talk about COVID and COVID recovery, and we talk about downtown, I've been bringing this up to some of the candidates. The DSA just released an ad saying downtown is open, trying to get people more into coming downtown. What is COVID recovery for not only small business, but big business look like for you?
There is such pent up energy and desire to get back to normal. And I'm looking forward to that. I don't know how well council's planning for that. But so I do know that they're doing a good job vaccinating. Some people are falling through the cracks, people that don't speak English, people that are elderly that can't get to appointments, etc. But we got to have a plan. And summer festival season is around the corner. And I'm hearing concerns that some of those festivals might not happen because we've undercut the overtime budget. And that requires a lot of cops to direct traffic and stuff. So COVID recovery, we need a plan so that people can come back safely, because there's going to be a lot of desire to get back together. And I think that Seattle's a safe town. And I just think that we need to be prepared for that.
Right. You mentioned overtime and policing. I'll come back to that. Before that, though, I wanted to ask you about, let's say, infrastructure. We see the West Seattle Bridge is out of commission. A lot of the drawbridges. When you talk about Fremont Brewing, right?
Yep.
That's where you're at. And so you connected over there. These drawbridges, 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
There's been deferred maintenance for years. I think that the auditor said that there should be like 34 million or something like that spent per year as far as upkeep and maintenance. Right now, the city is spending 6 million. Infrastructure isn't something that people take to the streets. That isn't something that you get lots of retweets and mentions on because it's not glamorous. You go to city council. I mean, how do you see yourself working towards these issues? But infrastructure and business seem like they go hand in hand. So I'm assuming infrastructure is something that's important for you.
Infrastructure primes the pump of our economy, and for me, it's about jobs, good union jobs, and people getting to and from their jobs. And my second priority after economic recovery is basic services, getting back to basic city services. There are 5 services listed in the charter of the city of Seattle: police, fire, parks, libraries, and transportation. And council's been inadequately funding and not overseeing correctly the delivery of basic services. You're right, not sexy, but infrastructure is a big part of that. Community centers that are on the verge of closing because they've they're in disrepair. And yeah, I read that article in the Times about those bridges. It's $20 million in, they're talking about maybe spending $7 million or something like that. But we have all these levies, the Move Seattle levy, the library levy, because we've been robbing from the general fund to pay for pet projects and other programs instead of doing our basic duty of local government, which is delivering those 5 basic services and infrastructure. You're right, so let's fixing the Seattle Bridge. I got the endorsement of the ironworkers yesterday, and infrastructure is their number one priority, and it should be the cities as well.
Right, and again, you mentioned here the cut of the overtime, everything else around police and policing, and this is probably something we could probably talk for hours about. But one question that I've asked all the candidates that have come here is what is policing and public safety look like to you 5 years from now?
All right, well, I'll go next year maybe, but next year, 5 years, it looks like your grandmother doesn't have to wait 14 minutes for the cops to come when she wakes up in the middle of the night because she hears somebody breaking into her house. And 14 minutes is the average response time for priority 1 911 calls. And that's partly because of the department is understaffed, and they're staffing, they're cross-city staffing to respond to large calls. So that's unacceptable. And so to me, I agree with Chief Carmen Best that, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. And by that, she meant that we can keep our communities safe and have police officers that respect the communities that they serve, treat people with dignity. And that's my vision, is that that people feel safe, and that we have officers that don't trample the rights of the people, that don't abuse the people that they are responding to. And I believe that that the Black Lives Matter protest last summer brought to the fore, an issue that is long overdue to be center stage, which is addressing systemic racism in policing, misconduct, abuse of force, right on. But I do not believe that defunding the police by 50% or just, pick a number out of the air, any percentage point, without a plan to keep people safe and without broad support in the Black community is the right way to go, because good policing takes more investment. It takes more money for the anti-bias training and for the de-escalation training to fund community policing, which is, I think is crucial, because those officers build relationships with the people they see on the street on their beats. And that is important for crime prevention. So I think it's a shame that Carmen Best, the first Black woman police chief that we had, was driven out of the city by council's pettiness, because she was doing a great job and she was elevated by her community. And so instead of defunding, let's work on the new, the expired police contract to build in better disciplinary protocols.
Well, I mean, that's a good point right there when you bring up this contract, because Mike Solon and Spog, they wield a lot of power here. And, this contract has now been stagnant, and we see that the contract really hasn't moved. And a lot of, I don't know, it seems like when Spog comes up down at City Hall, Spog comes in with the big stick, and, nothing ever happens here. Are you willing to, if elected there, and if you're around for contract negotiations, to actually really be hard on this and deliver also for the citizens? Of course, people want the police, like any other employee, to have a fair contract, but the citizens who they serve should have an even fairer contract.
Absolutely. And I will be firm on that. The Community Police Commission passed the accountability ordinance in 2017, and we have a responsibility to uphold the sections in there that talk about arbitration and talk about the necessity of holding police accountable to the communities that they serve.
Yeah, I mean, public safety, I think it's going to, me personally, I think the public safety is going to be a big issue in this race, because different people in different neighborhoods in Seattle perceive public safety differently. and even different groups in Seattle, even in the Black community. I mean, we definitely have a group of people who are very much for defund the police. Then we have a group of people, especially in South Seattle, who are dealing with homicides, who are dealing with gunshots and everything else, and who are actually calling for more policing. And I don't know if there's a one size fits all for Seattle, but I do know that the people who we're electing right now need to be able to be very dynamic. And my last question to you before I hand over here to my colleague is, I'm trying to think who we were talking to. It was a candidate for mayor. It was Jessen Farrell. And we talked about, sometimes people are like, oh, are you a downtown mayor? Or are you the small business mayor? This and that. And in the discussion with her, I said, Seattle needs dynamic leadership. Seattle doesn't need pigeonholed leadership. Well, I'm only this or I'm only that. Because that means that you're actually failed as a politician. If you can't somehow come in a way and be a dynamic leader to understand the needs of the constituents. And in your case, this is every district is citywide. So, I mean, this is a multitude of needs as you're talking about when you're talking about addressing a whole city here. My last question to you, though, is I want to center this back into D2 and D3. Sorry, everybody else. I'm not hating on you, but D2 and D3. Because if you're running for citywide, that means those will be your districts as well. What is your commitment, if elected, into helping to create economic drivers in those communities? One of the biggest things we talk about is average Black household makes $42,500 a year in city of Seattle. Average white household, $105,000. I don't want white folks to make less. I just want Black folks to make more. I mean, we have home ownership in decline. We have this big gap in between Black students and white students in Seattle public schools. So speaking specifically here in D2 and D3, in a dynamic way, how would you approach some of these issues that directly impact our community?
You keep saying dynamic, and I'm now feeling a little bit insecure. I don't know if I'm a dynamic person, but yeah, you got it. That's why I'm running for this position, because I am interested in addressing the needs of the whole city. Now, when it comes to the South End, you were talking earlier about Black people being killed, and so that gets back a little bit to community safety. Marcus Green was saying today, when Black people are shot, nobody really talks about it. And so getting to what I will do down there, I believe in those districts that, again, I'm all about jobs. We need to work a lot better at helping people who have experienced the criminal justice system get jobs, apprenticeship programs. We need to retain existing affordable housing, build more along transit lines, and that will require maybe some density around the light rail stations. And really focus on what those need, because you're right, it's not a one size fits all. And policing is different in the South End than it is in Ballard, and the needs for kids and youth is very different. So absolutely, I would focus it on jobs and housing and public safety down there.
All right, great. We're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, my colleague, Trayana Holiday, will join you here. Appreciate you got some extra time for us, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good stuff. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
Tune in this Friday at 7 p.m. for MochaCulture, a docuseries meets concert experience that knits the stories of our local arts community and the legendary voices of color that inspire them. This Friday is episode 1, Ray Charles, with performances by Eva Walker, Maya Marie, Chris King, and Jimmy James. Hosted by Shayna Shepherd and presented by Converge Media and the South Seattle Emerald. Tune in wherever you're watching The Morning Update.
Welcome back to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and I'm excited to be with you, Sarah. I'm glad that you came here so that our audience can hear more about you and more about your platform. And so Omari gets a lot of the things out there, and then I come with the community pieces, right? And he kind of segued into that a little bit as he asked you about some of the measures you would take specifically in District 2 and District 3. And I want to ask a little bit about, you kind of talked about seeing people out there during the protest movement and people utilizing their their voices? How will you take a lot of what was said, a lot of what was expressed in terms of people not being connected to police, people not being connected to elected officials, and there's really a break here when we talk about the trust that needs to be built. How will you do that in this District 9 seat?
Well, I think it's
or
important.
position 9. Sorry.
Yeah, no, P9. I think it's important that that we recognize that there are a lot of different voices in that community, and so the people that came together, sometimes the loudest voices get the most attention, but there are Black leaders in that came out for accountability, and I'm not sure that when they're calling for good policing that their voices are heard. So I get, every politician will say, well, I'll bring everybody to the table, but definitely I feel like I've heard people say big tent, no clowns, but the point is that it's time to strike now with that energy and building on the energy and the urgency that came together in the wake of those demonstrations and protests. And so let's not just forget about it. It's easy to, oh, that was last summer. And, we've gotten so addicted to what's happening today and last week that we have to remember that this is a long, it's a long process, but it's urgent. And there are folks that have been working on this for many years, and it's time to just make sure that they're being heard too.
Well, yeah, I think you're right that there's a wide variety of voices and diversity is definitely there. One of the things that strikes me too, and I think when we talk about how folks come together with collective voice and really wielding people power, that one of the things we also heard was the gatekeeping that happens in communities. It is probably across all communities, but specifically, I know about this in the Black community, and folks are just tired of the same voices being at certain tables, and then those being the measures and policies and practices that are then uplifted in an elected official's kind of window as they're looking into community. And so, how will you work to ensure that there's a blending of that it's not just about hearing from the same voices that have been at specific tables, but really, again, engaging the youth, engaging the elders. I think that there are certain sectors that are oftentimes left outside of the politics of it all. And it feels like right now, Seattle has an opportunity to really lead in the nation with regard to, we're going to actually inject ourselves with some new energy so that we dismantle the status quo. How will you help do that?
I was just thinking, there will not be an auto email reply saying, thank you very much for your email. We will be getting back to you, or that legislation will be before full. You won't get that from me. I will listen to other voices. You don't have to be a name that's recognized to get into my office. And I don't pretend to know all the voices in community, but I want to. And so, I'm not just going to scan a list and say, oh, I got to talk to that person, and I think that happens too much.
I agree with you here. And, one of the things that I think is super key, COVID hitting so many businesses hard. I heard about your background there with Fremont Brewery. Awesome. How will you be able to use your expertise in business to help eradicate some of the damages? I think Omari maybe touched on this, but some of the damages that are really hit hard by business owners. I mean, we've been having port commissions here. I think there needs to be almost an interactive approach that really brings all the intersections together with regard to opportunities. But oftentimes, people that are maybe just starting out at the very beginning levels, they don't get that same kind of window to understand this is the pathway for me to then be a viable business in my city, to be a viable business that can do import and export. How will you and your business experience maybe help to guide in some new pathways for younger entrepreneurs or newer entrepreneurs, even if they are elders that are, doing a second career, right? How will you be able to do that with your business expertise?
All right. Well, let's get through the red tape. That's one thing that is frustrating. You don't have to be a new entrepreneur. You can be a seasoned business owner and still have problem navigating all the permits, all the licensing. So I believe that there should be a one-stop shop for a new business. You want to, tailored by sector. And we did that once for restaurants, but there should be one place you go on the web at the City of Seattle, Office of Economic Development. And you can just, and it lays out, here are all the things you have to do. This is the timeline you have to expect to get your permit for this. Did you think about a change of use permit? All of those bureaucratic things, almost impossible to navigate. So let's make it easy. Let's not have people search for that. And then listen to industry leaders like the tech industry, the arts industry. I mean, there's a lot that artists need and want. Pop-up galleries, empty spaces on the ground floors of big buildings. Well, let's change the building code to allow for smaller spaces, or let's just make it easy. It sometimes seems as though there's the city's bent on making it complicated. That is not the truth, but there's a big CYA, kind of, I don't know, emphasis maybe. And I think there are barriers to be broken down on that. And sometimes there's a problem with all the different departments you have to deal with, electric, SPU and transportation, all those things. Get a team of people from different departments in, and their job is to solve problems. When a business owner says, yeah, City Light says I have to do this, but SDOT says I can't get a street use permit to do what the City Light says. Let's just make it easier. But it does take focus and listening. And another thing is that the mayor has a small business advisory council. I don't know if council goes to those meetings. They weigh in on policy. These are people that are giving their expertise, and they've got commissions of all sorts. And so I say, let's listen to the people that are civically engaged, that want to make our city better and make smarter policy. Let's start with listening to those people, and small business is a part of it. Listen to all the BIAs out there, the business improvement associations. Let's actually listen to them before, or just ask them, what do you think about this, before going forward with something. Again, it's about avoiding unintended consequences and helping, not creating barriers.
Well, I like your approach to that there, because there's a measure of things that are already happening, that are already taking shape, right? In whether they're community driven, or whether they're, hey, we're the downtown association, we care about these businesses here. But basically there are spaces where those conversations are already taking shape and taking form. And I think sometimes it's about, like you just said, listening to them. They're already convening. So I think that's a great avenue. I want to take a little shift here, because clearly, gentrification has wrecked our city. It has just completely wrecked our city. We see for-profit developers have been coming into Seattle in the droves, making money hand over fist with their development projects, building these multi-use buildings that then spaces are going underutilized at the bottom because nobody can afford the commercial space. We're seeing it drive families out of communities that they have helped build, that they've known, that they've loved. I think that this is important because it's a two-pronged thing. We need housing and we need development, but we also need to do it in a different way. I want to just have you speak to that, because it has wrecked our city. What will you do differently?
That is, if I had the silver bullet or the answer to that is, how do you have growth and jobs without gentrification? I don't know, I'd be on some TED Talk or something like that. That is something that when I was working for Richard, we were really puzzling over. So I'm not going to give any more caveats. What I'll say is that we have to retain existing affordable housing, naturally existing affordable housing. And that means helping people stay in their homes. So, home ownership assistance for people that are on the edge of being taxed out of our city. And also, people on fixed incomes, they can't afford yet another property tax increase. So let's really be careful about, shifting money out of the general fund, then paying for it with a new levy, and then old people who can't afford, practically their mortgage, they're paying more in taxes. So let's stop that as much as possible. And let's make it easier for change building codes to have smaller businesses on the ground floor. There's a lot of land use and building code changes that could happen just to do that. Incentives for developers to build smaller places, ground floor residential instead of all retail, because you're right, we're retailed out, So let's let people live on the ground floor of some of these 7-foot high or 7-story high buildings. That adds life to the street. builds community, and those units are cheaper. And so that can help people stay in their homes. And then again, supporting the small businesses that are already there by not passing laws that could end up having a negative impact instead of a positive one.
Yeah, that is agreed. Lastly, I'm sad I only have one more question left. But when we think about the city needing revenue, one of the things that Seattle is not taking advantage of, that it really has the opportunity to do so, is the film industry, right? And so that is my background. I have to go here. I haven't asked anybody else this, but as you were talking about your expertise as a business owner, something clicked for me, because I'm thinking, if you know how to make revenue, right, how are you going to help the city do that? And I think that when we talk about events, now that COVID is going to be, this possible herd immunity coming our way, and the fact that the permitting industry around filming has made it almost virtually impossible for productions to be housed in Seattle, yet we have this beautiful scenery around us that would be beneficial to major films. I really want to ask you if you've thought about that in terms of the arts and events.
Yeah, I have thought about that. And
I see you got excited there.
Well,
yes.
Yeah, but so basically we used to be, a spot where things were getting made. So what happened is that we stopped offering incentives, and then the industry went to Vancouver and other cities. And so we need to make it affordable, and street use permits, things like that. Make it easy to film in Seattle. And the Office of Film and Music, it's gone up and down through the years. Bring back the people that were doing it right. Hire those people again. Hire you, and have people that know tell the city what to do, and then do that. Because you're right, we're losing out on an opportunity in the arts in general. I was thinking about how can we capitalize on, I thought you were going to ask me the fight, nurture, heal question. And my nurture was going to be nurture creativity. And all the artists, like if you could just unleash that talent and that energy and allow things that we don't for some bureaucratic reason, let's do that. Because the time is now, and we've got a city full of smart, artistic people. And it's gorgeous. So why don't we have a booming film industry? What would be your answer? I mean, what's your one thing that we could do?
Oh man, we'll have to talk offline, because I have a lot of different measures and things that have always been in my head as a young child growing up in Seattle, seeing the mountains, seeing the water, our beautiful waterfront. So I think there's a lot that can be discussed there. And I'm glad that you were here today, but I'm sad that our time is up. And you guys, clearly you brought some different answers to the table. Before we let you go, tell our audience how they can follow your campaign and support you.
All right. My campaign website is saraforcitycouncil.com, and that's SARAFOR citycouncil.com. I'm on Twitter. My handles are all different. Sara #4 Council, and then Facebook, Sara #4 City Council. Instagram, Sara for City Council, all regular letters. So complicated, but go to my website, check me out. I have all my positions on different issues there, and you'll learn how to follow me. Thank you.
Well, thank you again, Sara. I'm glad you were here today. You guys know I got to bring back Big O. Thank you guys for watching. Just stay tuned. We're going to be right back. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
Tune in this Friday at 7 p.m. for MochaCulture, a docuseries meets concert experience that knits the stories of our local arts community and the legendary voices of color that inspire them. This Friday is episode 1, Ray Charles, with performances by Eva Walker, Maya Marie, Chris King, and Jimmy James. Hosted by Shayna Shepherd and presented by Converge Media and the South Seattle Emerald. Tune in wherever you're watching the Morning Update.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Morning Update Show. I am here now that Big O is back in the studio. We can bring Big O back in. What up, Big O?
Yeah, this was another good show here with the candidates, and I think people should also recognize as well is that these are introductory interviews. I mean, when I read some of the comments, they're like, man, what's up with this and this policy, this and that? We got time. We got time. And so, we're going to be bringing everybody back for 1 hour sit down. Tell us about your specific policy on, on budget. Tell about your specific policy on, economics. Tell us about what would you like to see in public safety and everything else. So don't trip. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. It's Converge over here. Everybody's rocking with us. So this isn't the only time that we're going to talk to a Sarah Nilsson or Nikita Oliver or Brianna Thomas or Justin Farrell or Lorena Gonzalez or Bruce Harrell. They'll all be back here.
Bruce Harrell. But yes, I know.
But you ain't have to do that.
I want to make sure that we kept.
But the flow could have kept going though, Trey. You see what I'm saying? Now I'm gonna wait.
Watch,
Bruce
is gonna thank me for that.
I'm gonna wait for you to slip on something. I'll be like, yo, okay. By the way, you see, but you setting precedents
it's
over
all
here.
Love, y'all know that. Well, one of the things that I just want to say though too is that I really am so thankful that people honestly value the Converge platform and the Converge audience to be sure that they do stop by. I mean, it's important.
This is something new, and let's be clear.
Yeah.
Is that 1 year? Well, actually, 1 year ago we did exist, but there wasn't all these things here that was going on. But the thing is that this is new to be able to have a live show, this video, and for people to come in. And yes, that means that they hold Converge, candidates find Converge valuable, but they find our audience valuable. And the best thing is look who we say our audience. Although we serve the whole city, we really are talking into legacy Black communities. And you talk about a D3 or D2, it's about the Central District or the South End. So that means that before, where candidates might have made their rounds, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. We might have been excluded from this space and this type of platform because it wasn't here.
That's right.
And so that's what I'm saying is don't worry, everybody. We got candidate forums coming up. We got all kinds of stuff. We got sit downs or whatever. This today, my mama always says, my mama watching. Hey, Mom. Mama always says there's a time and place for everything. And so we'll be back with these hard hitting questions and the drill downs and everything else. But this session right here is introductory. Yeah. We want to introduce the candidates to our audience.
Absolutely. And I think that all the candidates that we've had on for these introductory interviews have really done a good job to try to make sure that the audience and our community understands who they are, what they're bringing to the table. We've heard a lot of people talk about their lived experience, which we all understand is so vital. It's so crucial to maybe how they understand certain facets and how they're going to bring that in, into the position that they're running for. So I'm happy, man. Honestly, I didn't know who Sara was, and here I am. Now I have a bit of an idea and some more understanding.
All right, good stuff. So tonight, do we have an overlay up there? I'm not sure. No, not that one yet. Well, I can just say it here. 7 o'clock tonight, Clapback Culture. Man, that's a lot of different screens to look at. there we go. It was uploaded. Clapback Culture tonight with Julia Jesse of Converge Media, Mike Davis of the South Seattle Emerald. They're both hyper opinionated. And but
that's why people watch them.
Yeah, it's gonna be a real deal though, because I think the whole show, the whole 1 hour, they're gonna be talking about this trial.
Yeah.
And so you want to tune in tonight at 7 o'clock for Clapback Culture. And then tomorrow we're doing a real deal feel good Friday, and we're joined by another Trey.
Another Trey and another Garfield grad.
Man, I'm talking about Trey Simmons,
my brother,
coach at Garfield High School, the Mighty Bulldogs, our alma mater, and also the CEO of True Motivation. He'll be here. We're also joined by Shayna Shepard. We're joined by producer Nikki Barron. We're joined by Giorgio. These guys are getting ready to have another an anniversary celebration on Saturday. So it's a real deal feel good Friday tomorrow. Before we get out of here, Trey Holiday, any last words?
Every time we have candidates on here, I want you all to see yourselves as part of the solution. It's every day that's my message, but it's really important because oftentimes, and Omari and I have talked about this often, that we can't be on autopilot, y'all. We can't assume that these elected officials or new candidates are going to do the job for us. We have to be a part of the civic engagement process. We have to put ourselves out there. So please see yourself as part of the solution. Get up and do something of your own volition.
You got to get up, get out, get something. Don't let the days of your life pass by.
Yes.
All right, we're going to get out of here. Like I said, 7 o'clock tonight. Clap Back Culture. Make sure and tune in. And as usual, everybody, I want to remind you, go forward in your purpose. Go forward in your humanity. And until tomorrow at 11 a.m., peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rise.